guys.
That fourth down stop that Shea made, when they're about to make it 21-0 there, just how big was that play, obviously, and swinging the game?
Yeah, I think that probably. I had confidence in our guys, anyways. They were great on the sideline. They were great when I got them on the headphones, but that probably got the ball rolling for us to turn the game around. And anytime you get a fourth down stop in any football game, that's huge. But I think that one was particularly important.
The start was obviously a little bit less than ideal, as everybody's kind of said here so far, Eric. But with what you guys were trying to do on defense and like the personnel you had to throw out there and figure out, Spencer was saying you guys basically practiced that first time last week with that exact group out there. So does it take a few snaps or a few series to figure it out? Hopefully not, but does it? You typically?
Yeah, I kind of saw in the first series that it didn't quite look like practice. Some guys probably weren't 100% confident in their new jobs, and take full ownership of that. Asked a lot of guys to move different positions, guys we thought we could get in the best positions possible to defend some of the things that they were doing. Ask them to probably not only play some new positions, but execute some techniques that they hadn't done just because of being at other positions. It was probably a lot on those guys, to be quite honest with you. Probably could have put them in a little better position at the beginning of the football game, but I think they settled down and they started playing a little better, after the first couple series.
How did that change? It seems like you guys maybe backed off pressure a little bit, but I'm not, how did they were they able to kind of figure it out in the game, I guess?
Yeah, I don't know if we backed off the pressure because of that. We backed off the pressure a little bit because they had a good plan. Their quarterback was doing a good job getting the ball out. It's hard to bring pressure when the guy's getting – it's like pressure in Tom Brady, right? Like you just don't get there very often. But I think that, the coaches on the sideline did a good job of settling those guys down, showing them the iPads like, hey, guys, this is the things we practiced. Here's what's happening. You're out of leverage. We need to get our feet in the ground. The disguise is not as important as getting your feet in the ground and getting your eyes where they're supposed to be. So let's just do the little things better as we move forward. I think that helped things a lot.
3 straight weeks, you guys have now forced multiple turnovers in the game. Just especially after earlier in the season, we're questioning when are these turnovers, when are these interceptions going to come? How nice has it been seeing the defense start to get those?
That's great. I mean, you win the turnover battle. I'm not a huge stats guy, but winning the turnover battle, time tested. That's a huge indicator on winning or losing a football game. And then obviously having a rough start and giving up some yards early, having some of those turnovers, that it kind of covers up a lot of rough spots when you can get the ball turned over. So huge for that. I think the guys are very conscious of being more ball aware in the last few games than they had been in the previous couple. So happy for those guys, happy for the team that we got some turnovers and got the ball back to a very explosive offense that we have.
How impressed were you with kind of the way Ty just kind of forced plays to happen? Was it just kind of right place, right time, or what's his instincts like to get there?
No, I mean, talking with Ty in the last couple of weeks, and he said that he had, talked to his dad and some other people, and we all said the same thing to him. You look like you're a little mechanical out there. You look like you're afraid to make a mistake. Let's just go cut this thing loose and let's go start playing football and make some things happen. And I think he did. I think he reverted back to his natural playmaking ability instead of trying to force himself to be 100% right on every play. And he was in position to make that interception. He was in position to knock that football loose, and thought he played a great football game.
From the past defense in terms of some of the 50-50 type balls? I mean, I think San Jose came down with 8 of 11 contested balls. Is it just technique? Is it guys not turning around? Just them making great catches? What are you seeing?
No, I think yes, it's a little bit of all of the above. First and foremost, they have 2 really good receivers. Those guys are going to get some catches. I think on our part, playing corner, it's the dang scariest thing in the world, especially when you get beat on a ball. And every corner that's ever played football since the history of this game started has got beat on a deep ball. But it's hard to flush. It's hard to move on to the next one. and then you start doing things maybe just a touch out of your technique, just a touch out of your leverage. And once that happens, then it's hard to win those balls. So we just had to get those guys on the headphones. I think Demo did a great job with those guys. I got them both on the headphones and just telling them, we trust you, we love you. Play your leverage, play your technique, and good things are going to happen. And as the game moved on, they started to get back into their technique. There was the time frame in the middle there where they were in really good position, and they just didn't make the play. But them executing the technique that they did in practice just a little bit better, and they make those plays because when you're in position like that, like those 50-50 balls, they call them for a reason, but you got to win 50% of them.
It's maybe a dumb question, but just, it sometimes looks like the guys aren't even turning around to look for the ball. What's the proper, like, obviously you got to stay on your guy. You don't want to look back too early and lose that guy. But how do they know when to look back? When are they supposed to look back?
There's a lot that goes into that, but the oldest adage in football is if you're close enough to touch your man, you're in phase. When he looks, you need to look. And the jump timing is a big piece of that too. A lot of times when the receiver is able to go up first, it's hard on the defender. If you're out of phase, can't touch your man, I can't turn around. I got to go play through the pocket. And those are things that just constantly – and it's hard to drill because you don't have real quarterbacks. It's me or it's somebody else throwing the football. But those things we probably need to drill a little bit more.
Last week like for Marco and asked Spencer, it's not like he was going from 0 to 100, but he was probably going from about 55 to 100 with what you guys – asked him to do. He played every snap, wore the green dot. What was kind of the build up to last week like for him? And I assume he's probably a fun guy for you to work with too.
Yeah, Marco's awesome. He's very able to flip the switch, walking around the building. He's got a great sense of humor. He likes to joke. He likes to have a good time. You get on that field with him, you better know the answer. Like, he's going to ask questions that nobody else is going to ask, and you better have the answer, or he's going to look at you crazy. So he's very prepared. He's very detailed. Asking him to play a lot more snaps than he has, I thought was going to be no issue. Obviously, people get tired during the game, so the issue was, who's going to be next in, and somebody's going to have to double rep at certain positions. But I thought Marco handled it well. I thought he played a really good football game. Really proud of him. I mean, he's a great football player.
Kind of overall, that was about as close to Ironman football you probably get at this level. I mean, you really played about 13 or 14 guys where most of your starters played over 83-ish% of the snaps. I mean, Jaden's out there, 66 snaps and 54 pass dropbacks. How wild was that effort, I guess, out of those guys to be able to do that?
Yeah, I mean, we're in November. It's just, it's some of the things, like a couple of decisions that I made in the game plan, and I own that. Moving those guys around probably didn't put them in the best situation, but we have a lot of injuries, and that's not an excuse because everybody in the country has injuries, but finding a way to win when you're down players, when you have to do something different, like winning is hard, and learning how to win is very hard, and these kids embrace that, and they want to do what it takes, and not to mention the fact they played a lot on defense, but Amarion, Jeremiah, Banks, Shea, Rod, Marco, those guys are all on multiple special teams too. So a lot of football for those guys, but if you're going to go win in November, those are the guys you want on the field.
That's it. I mean, to have two of the better players in the defensive players in the league, out in Tubner and Simpson. I mean, what does that say about your unit that you could pick up for those guys?
I mean, it's like we said. I mean, super proud of those guys. Proud of Tubes and Andrew for coaching the way that they did this past week to try to get their next man up ready. Talked to those guys before the game. They said, Coach, don't worry, we're going to be fine. And Tubes kind of called it. He said, hey, we just got to make sure everybody that's in their new position is settled down early, and once they get into the rhythm, we'll be just fine. He's like, but I believe in these guys, and like finding a way, I think good teams find a way to win. Sometimes it's real pretty, and sometimes it's real ugly, but good teams find a way to win. And I was just happy for these guys to finish that game the way they did.
As much as you can say, like, do you enjoy it? I mean, I don't know if enjoy is probably the right way to phrase it, but, I mean, at the beginning of the week, do you just say, like, hey, these are the guys we got. How do we draw this out?
Yeah, I mean, and Coach D talks about it all the time. we got who we got. And we might have guys hurt, we might have full strength guys, but let's coach these guys up, make them better. And then at the beginning of the week, just like we talked about, like we had on paper, looked awesome, right? But my job also is to make sure that we can execute as well as we can. And there was probably a very fine line of guys moving positions and executing new techniques that was probably got pushed a little too far. But we're going to have to do it all over again this week, and we're playing a whole new team that's got different personnel groupings, so it's going to be fun again this week.
With Marco playing all the snaps, I mean, maybe Andrew's back this week, maybe he's not, but I mean, if he's not, do you want him to play as many snaps as he did, or do you want more get the younger guys like Clay Martineau and Jake Ripp more involved?
Yeah, I think, just like we talked about, at the end of this year, as important as these games are, we know we're getting everybody's best shot. I hope Drew's ready to roll here at the end of the week. I hope Tubes is ready to roll at the end of the week. If not, we obviously want Marco to play a lot of snaps, but also have a high amount of trust in those guys that have been grinding as their backups and waiting for their turn. So, if he's going to have to play for multiple weeks in a prime-time role on special teams and defense, and some of those young guys are going to have to get some reps as well.
What do you see from Wyoming?
Obviously it's going to be defend the run. They've done a nice job running mid-zone. They got some counter schemes. They've been more power in the past, but they've got some counter schemes involved in there. They do an interesting amount of fly motions, building bunches in a untraditional way, some of those behind the line of scrimmage bunches. So they give you some difficulty formation-wise and some motion-wise. Got a couple young receivers with some juice. I know their running back was back last week, and when he's full strength, he's a real guy. But they're a good football team, and they've gotten better every week.
With the Marion, maybe in just kind of layman's terms, why he lined up in the slot a handful of times prior to last week, and he almost did it exclusively against Nash. Why is that such a challenge, I guess, when you don't have the help of the sideline or whatever it might be? Like, why is that more challenging?
It's honestly two different positions. It's like playing outside backer compared to inside backer, and the way that I've always thought of it is some people, the skill level, Marion's got the skill level to do it. Some people, it's no issue. I think if it was only man coverage, it would have been a different deal. But some people see the game better inside out, and some people see the game better head on. And a lot of times when your eyes are trained one way or another, it's hard to do it the other way. And then there's just when you're out there on the island, you know where your leverage is at, like instantaneously. When you're inside, those leverage change between calls, between where your other people are at, those splits, how far is he between 1 and 2, how far is he between the line of scrimmage and the hash. So there's a lot that goes on moving inside. So thankful for Amarion. He played a big part in helping us get lined up this week. And Amarion, just to be honest, like he wants to be on the best receiver all the time. And this was kind of the game where it's like, okay, we're down a little bit with some guys being injured. Let's roll.
So in terms of a lead up to a game for him, like I'm sure he's practiced there before, but probably not preparing to play 58 snaps in the slot. So like, does he have to? Is it more time in the film room, more time at practice? Like, how does he get ready to go? Does it require more of him to get ready for something like that?
Yeah, I definitely think it was not as much film study. Like normally he's specifically scouting the guys that he's lining up against, what's their split, all those kind of things. It's more for him now. It's more walking through with the coaches, working with the nickels and the safeties, just seeing all those routes disperse from inside out instead of being out there by yourself. So it was a lot more prep. Probably not a lot more is probably not a good word. Equal amount of prep, just different prep for him.
Thanks,
All right. Thanks, guys.